The other part of the food story is, of course, to reduce the food waste, and it's a shame, but tremendous amount of food gets wasted. This solution here is ranked at number 3 by 2050, with the potential for reducing CO2 by 70.53 gigatons. Again, global cost and savings data are too variable to be determined. This is an image that is showing the back end of a processing plant for vegetables in Burscough, Lancashire, UK. I don't know if it's Burscough or Burscough. You can check it out. If you wonder why you have never seen a crooked carrot in your local market, commercial or natural, this is why. Vegetables are ruthlessly sorted to conform to quality standards set by the food chain, and this is the result. Some is carted off to piggeries. Some you can see already rotting in the water in the back there. So this is something we pay a price for. Everybody wants good looking vegetable, and now awareness is getting higher and higher, and there are in fact organized food festivals called ugly food, I think. So that's a way to take these vegetables that are going to be discarded or fed to pigs and make good food out of them. Going back to our world in data, 6% of global greenhouse gas emissions come from food losses and waste. 6% of the global greenhouse gas emissions. So the if it was a country by itself, I think this would be behind China and US in the third place. That's what the book says as well. Emissions from food waste that is never eaten accounts for 6% of the total emissions, with some lost in supply chains, some wasted by consumers, and some wasted during this is the food eaten. So food production is responsible for 26% of the greenhouse gas emissions that we already saw in the previous podcast. The share of global food loss and waste by region is also instructive. Industrialized Asia is wasting 28%. That's a massive amount. South and Southeast Asia at 23%. Europe is much more conscientious at 14%. North America and Oceania at 14%. Sub-Saharan Africa, which we always think of as a poorest region of the world, in fact, is ending up wasting 9%. North Africa and West and Central Asia at 7%. Latin America at 6%. So that's not a good situation. Of course, many times it's because they cannot store it, they don't have refrigeration systems and so on. Nonetheless, there is significant waste. What are the environmental impacts of food and agriculture? We have already seen this, but I'm just going to repeat it. 26% of the global greenhouse gas emissions, these are non-food emissions, 38.7 billion tons of CO2 equivalent, 74% of the global emissions, and food is down here at 13.7 billion tons CO2 equivalent and 26% of the emissions. This is land use, freshwater use, and eutrophication. So 78% of global ocean and freshwater pollution. Agriculture here has 78% impact on global eutrophication. 70% water withdrawals, which is very well known. Irrigation is always the largest consumer in pretty much every part of the world. And here 51 million square kilometers of habitable land, 50% of the habitable land. And of course biodiversity, livestock, 94% of mammal biomass, excluding humans, is impacted by agriculture. From FAO, there is a nice report showing contribution of each phase of the food supply chain to carbon footprint and food wastage. This is the percentage of total. Agricultural production, food wastage, carbon footprint, and food wastage. Post-harvest handling and storage, again, wastage is larger than the carbon footprint. processing. Here there is a larger carbon footprint than wastage, but wastage is still almost 10%. Distribution, consumption, so there is a massive amount of wastage at the consumption stage as well. Contribution of each commodity to carbon footprint and food wastage, again as a percentage of the total. Cereals excluding beer, vegetables, meat, milk excluding butter, this includes eggs as well. So again, carbon footprint and food wastage, of course. Fruits, massive amounts wasted. Starchy roots, fish, and oil crops and pulses. So waste is a big part of this story. On a global average, per capita food wastage footprint on climate in high income countries, North America and Oceania, and industrialized Asia, as well as Europe, for example. High income countries waste more than double that of the low income countries due to wasteful food distribution and consumption patterns in high income countries. So you can go from sub-Saharan Africa here at 210 kilograms CO2 up to 860 kilograms CO2 per capita food wastage carbon footprint. Really inexcusable. Right? So we have to work on that. After taking into account the adoption of plant-rich diets, if 50% of food waste is reduced by 2050, avoided emissions could be equal to 26.2 gigatons of carbon dioxide. Reducing waste also avoids the deforestation for additional farmland, preventing 44.4 gigatons of additional emissions. So that's co-benefit of reducing deforestation. We used forecasts of regional waste estimates from farm to household. This data shows that up to 35% of food in high-income economies is thrown out by consumers. In low-income economies, however, relatively little is wasted at the household level. There is still some loss in storage, distribution, post-harvest processing, and so on. Nonetheless, even in countries like India now, there are supermarkets where beautiful vegetables are sold, and the farmers that supply to those big retail markets are told to stick to some standards of okra or carrots or cucumbers or onions, tomatoes, fruits, and so on. Okay, so food wastage is a big part of the story, and there is a significant drawdown possible there as well.